Hey traders, Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com on May the 31st, 2015. In this video we'll cover the indices. We note that the industrials are below the 50 MA. The Dow Jones Composite index of 65 stocks is below its 200 MA. That's comprised with the industrials, the transports, and the utilities. The Russell is putting in a lower high, could break above a descending channel. The mid-caps are near highs, and the composite and the NASDAQ 100 are near all-time highs. Tick and Tick-Q cumulative are moving lower. Breadth is looking somewhat weaker. The summation index and NYMO are moving lower as well. Breadth, we saw some distribution days that are adding up. Currencies, we see the US dollar flagging currently on the daily chart. STO is less than 80 and weakening versus the yen, which is at lows as well at 80.56, and both of these could turn and start heading towards each other. The US dollar lower, the yen higher. Bonds yields are weakening, so TLT is higher. On the daily, it is overbought on STO. However, the weekly STO has turned up from below 20, so that's looking bullish on a weekly time frame. And commodities, we see crude oil bullish on a recent bounce. We'll probably trade some stocks and possibly UWTI on this bounce that we saw on Thursday. Friday we saw a follow through. Copper's pulling back, it's less than the 50 MA. And then of course we'll look at some setups with the industrials and the other indices moving sideways and marking time, figuring out which way it wants to go. We'll look at the high tight flag scan candidates and filter it with the 10E STO MACD setup. Starting off with the Dow Jones Composite, John Murphy was nice enough to point this out on Saturday that the composite, which is comprised of the industrials, the transports, and the utilities, 65 stocks have traded down below its 200 period moving average. So that's something we want to pay attention to this week. We had a distribution day. Slow STO is near oversold, could turn back up, and MACD is moving lower. The industrials closed below the 50 period moving average. Of course, it's only 30 stocks, but we did have a distribution day. MACD continues to move lower. Note the histogram has started to push below the zero line, and slow STO is headed to the green zone. So we could be setting up very shortly. So we'll be watching the industrials over the next few days. Note the lower Bollinger Band could be a target in the short term. Looking at the Russell for a few minutes, we are in this descending channel pattern. Prices came down to the 20 period moving average and bounced. We closed below the 10 EMA and the 50 and off of this upper trend line. However, slow STO is turning up, so that means prices are closing in the upper half of their daily range increasingly, and MACD is pretty much headed lower to slightly sideways. A breakout above this level would give us a heads up on the risk on trade, so keep an eye on these small caps this week. Mid caps are faring a bit better. The green line is the 50 period moving average. The 10 EMA is just above price. Slow STO is turning, and MACD, you can see histogram is moving lower, so we want to watch for MACD to stay above its signal line on the mid caps. The comp is at all-time highs, very nearly anyway, and you notice right here that prices closed above the 10 EMA, so we are looking a bit better. You can note the Bollinger Bands, which are fairly light. We're trading very near those as well. In addition, volume by price bar is very large and more than likely support if we do retrace a bit and head in this direction over the week ahead. Note, however, slow STO is moving higher. MACD is positive and moving sideways to slightly lower, and the number of stocks trading above their 50-period moving average is right around the 50 range. So looking somewhat better than the other indices going into the week ahead. On the NYSE Composite, we note the distribution days as well. We had a pretty decent one last week on Tuesday, where we came up to about 80%, just 10% shy of a 90% MDD, or major distribution day. So we could see another spike here, like we saw these in twos, before we see a green spike, which usually follows, like we saw back here in late December. And finally, the S&P 500 monthly chart. We like to follow this chart as well, noting that slow stow continues to move sideways to slightly downward. MACD is again at minus 4.35, you see over here. We did have a cross a couple of months ago, and we continue to follow this for more information to trade against. Note that the histogram is pretty much flat, so that's something else to keep in mind. If we start to see histogram start to turn back up, that could indicate that we could grind higher into the end of the year. Remember, sentiment-wise, that June is typically the weakest month of the year. If we go back a few years, back to 2008, we can see where June lies comparatively speaking. Consider sentiment when you're trading in the weeks ahead. CPC, the put-call ratio, is in an extreme range that we've typically seen bottoms in the past. Note right here in early May where we had this peak right around 1.25. We're currently at 1.16. We could touch the lower Bollinger Band and then reverse, maybe a hammer. That would be quite interesting. Would shake up the bears and the bulls. So keep an eye on the put-call ratio. Looking at tick cumulative, we continue to meander sideways, so we're not seeing much of a signal here. We are somewhat lower over the last week. Note that the S&P 500 is near the midline of the Bollinger Bands. We were hoping that we would move above the breakout level and flag up there. We broke down, just the opposite of what we thought might happen. On Tuesday we had a pretty nice down bar, and again on Friday we had some SPY options that we got stopped out of. We left at around 1 p.m. on Friday. Tick cumulative on the NASDAQ, tick Q, did push higher as one would expect. We have some blue sticks here on Elder, a green stick on Wednesday, a red stick on Tuesday. So for the most part we're looking okay here. Note the lower Bollinger Band is turning up with the upper Bollinger Band. Typically, if this follows through, this means that prices will more than likely grind higher. When the lower Bollinger Band turns down and the upper Bollinger Band turns up, that typically means that we'll have a quick move to the upside, like we saw here and here. The McClellan oscillator for the New York Stock Exchange is negative. We did hit minus 35, minus 40, I believe, on Friday. The NYA, the green area chart, is moving lower, and the composite, or the summation index, NYSE, is moving lower. We pointed this out earlier in the week, and also when we turned down in late April. This line moved, unfortunately. Looking at the McClellan oscillator for the NASDAQ, breadth looks a little bit better. We only have a blue stick on the NDX. However, the summation index is moving lower. We'd like to see this turn higher from a higher low perspective for the week ahead. Looking at currencies, the US dollar, this is a 20-year monthly chart. Note the resistance here that we hit and pulled off of. We could come back down to the support level. On the UUP bullish fund, we note that this is pulling back. You can pause this and read this. The bearish equivalent is, of course, UDN, which is showing more of a bullish pattern. From a bearish perspective, if you want to trade the dollar lower, you could trade UDN, which is making a higher low, and the moving averages are turning. Note where slow stow is, and MACD is turning as well. And of course, the US dollar on the daily, we're starting to turn. Note the 50-period moving average is turning as well. We're at the upper Bollinger Band, and we could see the dollar pull in a little bit with slow stow turning over on the daily. Here is a chart of the yen versus the dollar. The dollar is here, the elder impulse, the chart in the background. Shaded area is the NYA, and this is the yen moving to lows. Now we expect this to start to move towards each other, the dollar lower and the yen higher, with stow oversold and about to turn. Looking at commodities, the copper daily got rejected around the 200-period moving average. The orange line broke down through the 50-period moving average. The 10 EMA is turning over as well. So this is looking rather bearish for the most part, but slow stow is oversold, could turn back up. Note the distribution candles there, or the distribution volume bars. MACD is headed lower. But what we're really focused on this week is crude, of course, selling off from the summertime highs. We came down and made these lows in March. We broke out of this channel pattern, and then we established our pivots for our Fibonacci levels from the breakout level. You can note the 1618 extension. The 100% level was the breakout of this channel. The low was 4241, and we have the 1618 extension. And of course, this week we retraced down to the 236 retracement, shy of the 382, which indicates more strength in the bounce. We could also look at this as a double bottom and a cup with a handle. We view this as very bullish and are looking for further upside. We will be trading USO, possibly UWTI, which looks very good as well. Note the inverted head and shoulders here. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We have a 3-week nice little channel down. Price is back above the 10 EMA. We had some nice volume. 112 million shares on Friday. Slow still turning up. So we'll probably be trading UWTI this week, looking for a breakout. Note that if this does move higher, which we're fully expecting, with the lack of volume that traded in this area, there's very little resistance or sellers to the upside. So once we break into this Kirby level, we could see higher prices very quickly. Here is a chart of TLT, the 20-year. We note the descending channel. We have a bounce and moving higher. Note the Bollinger Bands and the moving averages above, which could be short-term targets. On the daily basis, Dow is overbought and could turn. But if we look at the weekly, we can see a different picture. A descending wedge. Note the very large volume by price bars here. The histogram where we could find support and did. RSI is starting to turn higher. MACD histograms flattening and could turn in the positive direction. And slow stow is turning from oversold. So for the most part, TLT looks good up to around the 127 level, 127.50, this upper trend line, and then we have this upper Bollinger Band to deal with. So for the time being, bonds look pretty good going into the week. AGG, the Barclays Aggregate Bond Fund. Note if we extend this trend line out, we could see a turn and a retest of that line. The 10 EMA is moving higher. Prices are above same. They tested the 30-period MA. And we'll watch to see if we get rejected there or if we move higher in the week ahead. Slow stow is overbought and MACD is moving higher. However, that's on the daily time frame. On the weekly, we can see something similar to TLT. We're holding the 30-period 10 EMA overhead. Slow stow is near oversold. Let's take a look at some high tight flags. The high tight flags have been covered quite extensively on our blog. If you go here, hit the green magnifying glass and type high tight flag, you can see all of the articles that we've printed, that we posted on the pattern. With regard to high tight flags, the thing we're looking for is a new product or service that has institutions excited. The institutions validate the product or service by accumulating in shares, falling all over themselves. You can see huge volume spikes that last for more than days. Then we look for a pole that forms over 60 trading days. Vertical poles don't do as well as more gradual sloping patterns. They occur in 60 trading days. And then after the initial accumulation of shares, we look for a consolidation pattern. So with that in mind, what we're looking for here is Castle, AM Castle. We've been watching this one for a couple of days. It hit this volume by price bar and stopped and paused. So we're watching to see what happens here. Slow Stow is turning from the oversold territory. We're just waiting on MACD and for a signal that prices could move higher. So note the volume by price resistance, and we have support here at the 10 EMA. We think there's a possibility we could visit the 20 period, but volume is tapering off during the flag, which is what you want to see. Advanced oncotherapy is obviously in the cancer research group. Note that they had the annual ASCO meeting of companies that are researching in the cancer industry, the cancer therapies. The list is quite large. If you're looking for catalysts, a lot of these companies are presenting at the ASCO. This meeting is some of the top companies in the immunotherapy and other oncology groups, American Society of Clinical Oncology sponsoring. So we'd be looking forward to some of these names looking pretty good this week. So we also posted a summertime trading strategy and some of the things that we look for during the summer that do well. We look for stocks like in the beer and alcohol, food, drugs, consumer products that do quite well during the summertime. ADXS, we're looking at the breakout here on this particular stock. Note all of these don't fit the criteria specifically, but we do notice that we have a run up in price action over a 60-day period, so it shows up on the scan. We don't turn them off just because they don't fit the criteria specifically the way it's outlined by William O'Neill or Tom Bukowski. We do keep an eye on some of these stocks. ADXS is one of those. Nice volume on Friday and Thursday. 10 EMA moving higher, slow start turning back up, and MACD above its signal line. AMCN is media agencies. This group, along with entertainment and leisure names, have done quite well this week and the past couple of weeks. We note the pennant that's forming here after a breakout. We had a nice run up in prices. You can see that we've appreciated from the $2 level all the way up to the $6.60 level, and now we're watching for a breakout. Note slow stows turning back up, MACD above its signal line. ALDR continues to move higher out of this breakout of this channel. Note there's no overhead supply. Prices continue to stay above the 10 period EMA. Note the volume, slow stows getting a bit overbought, and MACD is above its signal line. Note there's quite a few of India-based stocks. We note that GDP for India continues to grow in the first quarter, and a lot of these stocks are doing quite well. Imagine riding this over the last 60 days from $40 up to $190 per share. We note a lot of mineral-based stocks on the London Stock Exchange breaking out and flagging here. We see AMC.L as well as Argos Resources. Some of these names have changed trend and are moving higher. So if you trade on the London Stock Exchange, if you're a follower from the UK, keep an eye on some of these stocks. Note Argos Resources, slow stows nearing oversold, could turn back up, and MACD's above its signal line. Note the volume. This could find support in this area and flag out, so keep an eye on that. Asia Citrus Holdings, ACHL.L, another London-based stock. Nice flag, run up in price, holding the 10-period EMA. Note the volume by price bars. Slow stow nearing oversold, keep an eye on that, and MACD above its signal line. We note the high tight flag scan in January that we were paying attention to at the time. Note ADXS as well. We had blue, which was on the scan. Note the price pattern here at 95. This is a great thing about high tight flags. Here's blue. Currently, this is where we were looking at it in January, around $100 a share. The stock has run up to almost $200 per share. So that's the thing that we like about high tight flags. So Bluebird now is overbought. This is a biotech stock. MACD's above its signal line, and we see nice volume. Bona is in the entertainment, leisure, and media group. We pointed this one out a few weeks back when it ran up and then moved lower, held the 50-period moving average, and is moving higher now. This is an Asia-based company, Chinese distributor of domestic films in China, Korea, and Southeast Asia, as well as Europe and the US. It's number one in its group, and it has very decent numbers. Accumulation distribution is at an A. The SMR rating, which is the sales, margins, and return on equity, is a B. And overall, the company has a 98 rating on IBD. BSTC, another biotech name, starting to form a pole here. We'll watch this over the next few weeks. Note the volume. This is a fairly thinly traded stock and something that we wouldn't chase, obviously, but we will watch it for statistical purposes. BLDR is in the building materials. We note that a lot of names in the construction, heavy construction, materials, providers, etc. are showing bullish patterns. We'll keep an eye on these. One name in the group was IBP, Installed Building Products, provides new residential installation services, yada yada. It's number one in its group. Note the IBP ranks, accumulation, SMR, and also its fundamentals. Note the percent change the last quarter is 400%. And if we look at a chart, we can see quite clearly a nice down channel, price below the 50-period moving average, above the 10 EMA, slow stows moving higher, and MACD's above its signal line. Note the crossover on the longer duration 1226 MACD. Price gets back above this volume by price bar. There's very little overhead supply. This could look pretty good going into the week. So that's why we're looking at BLDR. Slow stows near oversold and could turn up over the next couple of days. Cal-Maine Foods, remember the summertime trades, we've been looking at beer, food, consumer products, and drugs. Note the nice little flag pattern here, connect these lows and these highs. Prices are moving higher. Note slow stow continues to move higher. MACD slightly below its signal line at minus 0.6. We'll keep an eye on this one. This is an IBD stock as well. Good fundamentals. As we can see here, 93 composite rating, number one in its group, B plus on the accumulation, and SMR of B. So this one's looking pretty good. Here's your fundamentals. Earnings percent change, 3-year growth rate. Earnings per share is at 36%. Profit margin 11.2, which looks good, and a nice, decent PE ratio. I'd like to see management own a little bit more of the stock, however. Cheetah Mobile, CMCM, we're looking at this one. A few months back, we were looking at this. It showed up on the high tight flag scan when it started to run up, moved sideways, Bollinger Bands were tight, and then we broke out and moved $10 higher. That was a nice trade. Slow stows setting up again, and look where MACD is above its signal line. Price is above the 10 EMA, and we're starting to taper off as well as volume, which is exactly what you want to see. Shinai Petroleum, another India-based stock. Note the flag here. Nice volume. Slow stow's a little bit meandering, a little bit lower here, and MACD above its signal line. So keep an eye on Shinai. Dyax, another biotech stock, continues to meander sideways. Tight Bollinger Bands, 50-period moving average just below. Volume by price bar. Volume tapered off, slow stow's turning up, and MACD is below its signal line. So we're watching this one. Eagle Pharmaceuticals, we pointed this one out back in early February when it ran up and it moved sideways, held the 10-period EMA, continues to move higher off the $40 level, nearly a double since then. A couple of followers traded this and they kept asking me about, well, what about EGXR? And we just said continue to follow your stops higher. So congratulations to you if you took Eagle and you continue to hold it from the March breakout. Earthlink, watching this one to see what happens. Prices are meandering at the 7 level above the 10 EMA. Slow stow is overbought. MACD is above its signal line, but the short duration is moving lower. eGain Communications, forming the basis of its pole right now, stopping right at the 200-period moving average. Have this volume by price bar to deal with. This one's on our watch list for a move. Once we consolidate a bit, which we're anticipating will be up here around $485 per share on this fairly cheap stock. MACD is above its signal line. eHigh Car Services, this is a Chinese-based stock. Car rentals in about, I think it's around 100 cities in China. Note the pennant. Breakout, 10 EMA is rising quickly. No overhead supply, growing business. When you think about the Chinese duplicating services and businesses that have done quite well in the US over the last 100 or so years, they're doing quite well by mimicking and repeating those services and businesses in China for the growing middle class. Note slow stow could set up in the very short term, and MACD is above its signal line. Note the volume. We anticipate this stock will continue to move higher over the weeks and months ahead. Eland Oil and Gas, another London-based stock for our British friends. Note that it's holding the 20 period. Nice little hammer on Friday. Slow stows oversold. MACD could get back above its signal line. If this turns back up, watch your histogram. This could be a winner in the weeks ahead if it holds the 20 period moving average and gets back above the 10 EMA. Note the volume by price resistance level right here. ERN Energy, ERN, we pointed this one out several weeks ago when it showed up on the high tight flag scan for the first time. Continues to move higher, and it's holding the 10 period EMA while it flags out. Note slow stow is overbought. MACD is turning down, but the longer duration MACD is above its signal line. Do focus on the MACD histogram on all of your charts. We find that very useful for judging shifts and momentum. Note Jindal Polyfilms, another India-based stock, holding right above the 10 period EMA. Nice V-shaped bottom and a flag. Slow stows moving, turned back up, and MACD is above its signal line. Lane Christensen, LAYN, another heavy construction name, flagging out here, hammer on Friday, right around the 20 period moving average. Note the volume by price support level, little cup and handle, slow stow nearing oversold, could turn back up. Watch for MACD histogram and MACD to get back above its signal line. Momo, this was on the high tight flag scan last week. Note that it ran up holding all this green buying volume here, very little selling volume. A little pennant flag possibly setting up. This was featured in IBD this weekend. Also note that slow stow is moving lower and MACD is above its signal line. We'll watch this one over the coming weeks on this new IPO. NHTC, Natural Health Trends. This one's we traded off of the $18 to $20 level. It ran up and then we got stopped out. Slow stow did turn back up. Volume starting to creep back in, and MACD is trying to get back above its signal line. So this one looks like it's going to try to break out again. I wouldn't chase it. I'd wait to see what happens here at this breakout level. Nitin Spinners Ltd, another India-based stock, flagging out here. Nice tight Bollinger Band, slow stow turning back up. If you trade these stocks, this looks good. There's no overhead supply, and this one just could continue to move higher with GDP and India continuing to grow. Nuvera Environmental Solutions, NES, they provide water and wastewater for the use in fracking and shale companies. Note the Eagle Ford Shale was featured in the IBD this weekend. Keep an eye on some of those stocks. EOG, COG, and Sanchez Energy were mentioned. NES looks like it's flagging here above this very large volume support level. Could come back down to the 20-period moving average. If you zoom in here, we can see the 20-period is right here, just below $5 level, and could move back up. Slow Stow is signaling it could move down to the 20 level and turn back up. MACD is below its signal line. Pre.to, I believe this is based on the Toronto exchange. Nice little flag. Bollinger Bands tightening. Could get above this Kirby level and move higher. Slow Stow's turning back up. MACD needs to get back above its signal line. The nice thing is, during this flag sideways, the volume is tapering off. 77 Energy, SSE, note the inverted head and shoulders pattern similar to UWTI that we're watching for the week ahead. Slow Stow's moving lower and could turn back up. Note the volume and price right at the 10 EMA. Shake Shack shows up on the high tide flag scan for obvious reasons. Had a nice run up over the last 60 trading days from the 47 level up to the 96 level. Back above the 10 EMA. This looks like it's going to break higher this week. Nice volume. Slow Stow got reset, which we like to see, and MACD is right near its signal line. Note the histogram. So this looks like a good trade this week on Shake Shack. Just remember to use stops. This is a $2 range right here. I would use a stop below the Friday lows, right around 79, 78, something like that, with a trade on this if it doesn't take off during the opening range on Monday. RELY, a new IPO, obviously. Slow Stow starting to reset. MACD's above its signal line. Nice volume on this one. Holding the 10-period EMA. We'll keep an eye on this stock this week. This is on our watch list. Skechers, XKX, right above the 10-period EMA, flagging out. This one broke out back in February, did quite well, and continued through March, and presently much higher. Slow Stow turning back up. MACD below its signal line. Note the red volume selling. So we'll keep an eye on this one and this cyclical stock. Vimicro International, VIMC, a little breakout on Friday. No Bollinger Bands are starting to expand top and bottom. So that's an indication that this could rip higher. I wouldn't chase it, however. We're only $1 off of the breakout level. If you look at the 1448 as the breakout level, then we're very close to same. So you're really not chasing it too much. No overhead supply. It's in a semiconductor group. Slow Stow is overbought. Nice volume. MACD is pushing higher. Okay, so this is Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com. For you new traders, be sure to check out these top 5 or 6 videos, which will give you a better edge on understanding the markets, taking setups, and where to position yourself for the highest risk reward on your trade. In addition, if you don't subscribe to the blog, this is a spam-free site. Enter your email address in here and you can get these delivered to your email every day. You'll note my tweets are here, the watch list for the week or the day. You can just scroll down through these, keeping track of the trades that we're looking at, whether they're high tide flags or Bollinger Band setups. It's also a place for me to document the trades and thoughts going into the weeks. So I hope this helps. Take care. We'll talk to you on the stream on Monday.